Mike Cardano with Roto Experts in the Fantasy Sports Network, and with week 1 of the NFL season in the books, we now turn to the waiver wires and start and sits for week 2. Now, we spoke quite a bit about rookie receivers Kelvin Benjamin and Brandon Cooks before the season started, and in many instances, you probably had to reach for them a bit if you wanted them because of all the hype. Now, both guys clearly showed that they are ready to contribute right away, with each having different skill sets that should lead to successful on-field performances for both their NFL teams and fantasy owners. Now, Benjamin ended up his first career game being targeted 8 times with 6 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. And Cooks was also targeted 8 times with 7 catches for 77 yards and a TD, also enticing us with an electrifying 18-yard run on a jet sweep. So for those of you concerned about what their roles as rookies were going to be and how would they be used, I think week 1 set the stage for what the rest of the season would look like. If anything, these rookie receivers are going to absorb more of the offense as time goes on, and their usage will go up, not down. And that's the type of information that you should be looking to get from week 1 performances, particularly from rookie players or secondary players who did not come into the season as household fantasy names. We want to use this type of information to help predict how these players will be used going forward, because as we know, opportunity for skill position players on the field dictates opportunities for fantasy success. If a quarterback doesn't put the ball in the air, he can't rack up completions, yards, and touchdowns. If a running back doesn't get touches, he can't rack up rushing and receiving yards, receptions, and TDs. And if a receiver doesn't get targets, well, then his opportunity for receptions, yards, and touchdowns just isn't going to be there. So with that, I'd like to talk about another rookie wide receiver that was grouped in with Benjamin and Cooks from an ADP standpoint before the season started, and that's Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans. Now, Evans' skill sets are completely different than Benjamin and Cooks in the respect that he simply doesn't have the dynamic athleticism or explosiveness that the other two do. He's not going to be able to separate like Cooks does or overpower defenders like Benjamin does. But he knows how to use his size, and I think you'll find him to be a very valuable possession guy. And in the red zone, his height presents mismatches for defenders, and we all see the trend of throwing the ball up high in the back of the end zone for the big receivers. It's designed play where either the receiver comes down with it for a touchdown, he gets a pass interference, or it's incomplete with no harm other than the loss of opportunity. Evans only had 5 receptions for 37 yards in week 1, but he was targeted 9 times, including a touchdown catch in the back of the end zone that was ruled incomplete because he had stepped out of the back of the end zone running his route, and then he was the first to touch the ball upon reestablishing himself within the field of play. Add a touchdown to his week 1 line, and he's being looked at today very differently in fantasy football circles. Now, as of this morning, on both NFL.com and CBS.com, Evans has been dropped in almost 4% of leagues. On ESPN.com, Evans has been dropped in almost 7% of leagues, and that's a trend of ignorance. As with Benjamin and Cooks, Mike Evans is going to absorb more of the offense as time goes on, and his usage will go up, not down. Now, the Bucs face the Rams in Tampa at 4:05 Eastern on Sunday, and I expect Evans to be heavily targeted once again. Given all the factors in play, the odds on Mike Evans producing on the field for both the Buccaneers and your fantasy team are ones that I like very much. He should be on your roster. He should be active in your lineups. Now, if you've got questions for week 2, shoot me a note on Twitter at Mike Cardano, and I'll see if I can give you some advice that doesn't screw you up too badly. And I'll see you right back here tomorrow on the Fantasy Sports Network.